And so right here in this moment, I recognize and know that there is just one mind, one consciousness, one presence, and that presence is available to me right here in this moment. It is that presence that is filled with the love and the light, the joy and the beauty, the peace and the wonderment of everything that is operating right here and right now. I know that this operates in and through everything. This energy, this one mind, this consciousness is my consciousness. I know that it is mine to know, mine to be, mine to live from this place. And so I choose my thoughts wisely. I choose my conscious mind with great care. I recognize and know that I am operating in divine alignment with the one-hearted spirit and that one-mind consciousness, and so I allow it to flow through me, guiding me and enlivening me, allowing me to be the person that I already am, giving me permission, because there is nothing necessary other than to let go and be the presence that is already here. And so I give thanks for this one-mind consciousness, thanks for this energy, thanks for this life force that operates through me right here and right now, and through all of us right here and right now. And I release it back into that one mind with tremendous gratitude, knowing it's all good, it's all God. And if you choose to affirm this for yourself with me, please join me in saying, and so it is. Thank you. So how are you guys? How are you now? Compared to when you showed up, how are you doing? Good? Awesome. How was your day? Was it good? Your weekend was good? Interesting? Anybody do anything really interesting? No? Yes?
We went to Whistler.
Oh, that's good. That's nice.
And we played on the railroad tracks.
Get out. Really? Did you lie down and tie each other up, or? Oh, no.
We danced.
Nice. Okay, good. It was no Penelope pit stop or anything like that. Okay, good. Good to know. Good to know. That's great. I did something exciting too this week. I went jet skiing for the first time in my life ever, and was in the middle of Okanagan Lake. My girlfriend took me at 8:30 in the morning. She told me the night before, and she said, okay, we're going to go out at 8:30 in the morning. And all night I was like, what am I doing? What am I thinking? And so we went out, and I'd had an interesting week, which I will tell you about a little bit more. And her thought was, you know what? You're in your head too much. You're in your head too much. You need to get into your body, because sometimes the body is just way better at processing stuff than your head is, right? So she said, let's go out on this jet ski. We're going to just go for it. And I'm like, I wasn't too bad, but I was a little anxious, right? But I had a life jacket on, and I completely believe in life jackets. So that took a lot of the energy away. And at first, you get up onto the water, and my experience was, and it was like glass, and there was nobody out there. Okanagan Lake is a big lake. There was nobody out there. By the time we got all the gear on, it was probably 9 o'clock. But yeah, it was still and quiet. And so we got up to maybe 35 kilometers an hour, and I'm kind of going, slow down, right? And so she slowed down, and then we did a nice meandering, and we got all the way out into this area that would probably be near central Okanagan, thereabouts, if you're familiar with it at all. And she said, okay, so we're going to take a picture now, and then you're going to jump in. I'm like, what? Really? I had my bathing suit on. I was kind of prepared. And I also had my glasses on. So I said, okay, well, I don't really want to lose my glasses, so let's put my glasses in here. So now I'm blind. But I got my life jacket on. And I said, seriously, we're going to jump in? And we are literally in the middle of the lake. Literally in the middle of the lake. And so for some reason, I didn't realize I would actually go underwater because I was so trusting my life jacket. So I went right underwater, and then it was, remember we were talking about breathing and that shallow breathing? Oh man, was I doing shallow breathing. There was no healing happening at all. There was like no healing happening in that moment. And so she's holding on to me, and I'm just going, okay, this is good, this is good. And then slowly my breathing stopped. And then she said, okay, so now what we're going to do, and she pushed me away from the jet ski, and I went on my back and put my arms out, and I just floated right in the middle of the lake. I want you to know that the beginning of the week, there was not a lot of surrendering happening. And this speaks directly to what we're talking about. The beginning of the week, as some of you know who were here last week, was I was entering a week of taking my mom in for surgery. And it was a surgery on her lung. And I was greatly assured that it was going to be perfect. But nonetheless, this is, an older woman, and it's surgery, and yes, there's general anesthetic involved. So there's lots of things going on in our respective heads. And my practice throughout the week was to try and come to some sort of idea, some kind of balance between, like Corey said, where am I caring and where am I micromanaging? Where am I caring and where am I micromanaging? Where am I caring for my mother and where am I caring for myself? And where am I micromanaging? So, micromanaging, whoa, did I learn a lot about that. Holy cow. Micromanaging looked to me like, I know that this is what we need to do for every single step, so I'm going to be proactive. How many of you believe in being proactive? Yes? Yes, I am a firm believer in proactive. However, what I started to see was that my firm belief in proactive, excuse me for saying this, but really, the universe doesn't give a shit. Really, it has its own plan. It has its own plan for what it wants to do. And being proactive is only suitable in certain situations. And in fact, being proactive and trying to predict what's going to come next will actually increase the anxiety level. Because I think I'm in control, but I'm not. I'm not in control. So how am I caring when I think I'm in control, when what I really need to be doing to care is to be present with what is right in front of me, present with the truth of who my mother is in this moment, present with the truth of who I am in this moment, and how can we come together within that. So I just want to give you a couple of little quotes to sort of go along with this, so that you get some context. And yes, it's all about me, and it's all about you, and it's not really all about either one of us, right? Because we're all human beings, and my belief is, yes, maybe this sounds like my story, but there's elements that you're going to recognize that's also your story. So Ernest Holmes says, the love of God cannot hear the prayer of the one who fails to love. The love of God cannot hear the prayer of the one who fails to love. If you are in a place of loving, you are probably not in a place of, I'm going to be proactive. What's that place? That place is, I'm going to project myself into the future. I'm going to think about all the things that are needed so that I can relax in the moment. That's what I think I'm doing. But the truth is, it's taking me away from being present in this moment. So I'm doing all that managing out there instead of managing what's in here. So the first day was an experience of grounding. Where are we? What's the lay of the land? What does that look like? And then the next day I thought, if I was my mom, I would be anxious. And so what can we do to fill up an entire day in a town that neither one of us, I'm familiar with Kelowna because I used to live there, but it was a different circumstance. We're not here to socialize, right? And maybe that's not the time to be doing it. So how do I embrace what's happening? So I thought, you know what? We're going to go for a massage. We're going to go for a relaxation massage. And then my micromanaging started to feel guilty because I thought, why am I including myself? This should be about my mom. I need to care for her. I don't need care. I'm just here to support her. I don't need care. I need to care for her. And why would I waste my money on doing that for myself when I should be doing it? Should. You hear that? That's usually a clue that something else is going on. So I thought, you know what? I kind of think that maybe I'm just going to have a massage too, because if I'm relaxed, that'll help us both relax. I had no idea how important that was. Because what happened on the other side, I had done self-care, I had ensured she was cared, and on the other side, we now had a bonding thing. Because now we had something to talk about that we had both just experienced that was truly positive. Truly positive. And the rest of that day, honestly, was like magic. It was like magic. Nothing could have happened that we wouldn't have felt like we were there by divine appointment. Everything just continued to flow. We had a lovely dinner. Everything worked out really well. And so now we're going into the next day, and now I'm thinking I'm going to, I can't micromanage surgery. I know that for sure. So I'm in a place of surrender, right? You guys, you do whatever you do. I'll just do my bit. And so, I was there, and they let me be there right up until she was wheeled in. And so through the period when she was going through her being under general anesthetic, I spent the whole time in prayer. And I usually do that by writing. And I just kept knowing and surrounding her with all of the expertise, knowing that the surgeons were completely on point, knowing that the nurses were on point, and just being as much present with her as I could during that period. So there wasn't micromanaging there either, right? So now here's the next micromanagement thing, because I'm still trying to figure out how to care for her. So she comes out of surgery, and if any of you have gone through it, it doesn't always work the way that you think it's going to work. It ends up being a little bit more, at least in my case, a little bit more dramatic than I was necessarily expecting. And then I started to get into the micromanage. What's going to happen when she gets home? What are we going to do? Here she is in this, and I don't know. She lives in Nelson. We live here. My sister isn't there. How's she going to care for herself? I don't know if she can go up the stairs, blah, 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 blah. I better talk to the charge nurse. So I go out there and I want to talk to the charge nurse. And the charge nurse is lovely. She's like got serious eye contact. Serious eye contact. I don't think I've met anybody who had eye contact like hers. But it was calming eye contact. It wasn't intense, it wasn't scary, but she was there. Absolutely there, 1,000%. And she said, you know what? We don't decide home care until the surgeon says anything. We don't decide home care until the moment that she's discharged, because then we really know what's going on. I can't predict it. I can't predict what my mother's going to be up for. I'm not allowed to predict that. My sister and I, we were convinced that we could do everything in advance, and we're calling people and, can you make sure that you're here to pick her up, blah, blah, blah. We couldn't do any of that. And so again, I had to surrender. And I'm just thinking, okay, I know it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine, it's going to be fine. And the guy who's going to pick her up, they said they'll discharge her between 9 and 10. And so he's left Nelson at 5 o'clock in the morning, and he'll be here between 9 and 10, and it'll be fine. And that was all I was allowed to do. And the next day, she's doing so well. She's doing better than I could possibly have imagined. Possibly have imagined. And they're taking forever to discharge her. She finally gets discharged at 3 p.m. This guy has been there since 9 to take her home. 3 p.m. we finally get out of there. And 0 home care. All that worrying, all of that stuff, all of that was completely for naught. How many times do we do that? How many times do we allow ourselves to be away from the present moment, busying our minds with things that we think are going to support us, things that we think are going to help us, and instead it was all for naught, because the universe had other plans and it was going just fine, thank you. So the last time that I had a visit with my mom, I talked about that as well, and I'd made a promise, and I told you guys what that promise was. For those of you who weren't here, I'll just repeat it. And because the last visit I had with her was far more challenging than this one. And I wasn't present. And at least with this one, even though I was being proactive, I was far more present than I had been prior. And I wasn't present at all. And I allowed myself to get caught up in all kinds of work stuff. And it's like, oh, I can take care of this and do work, and I can do this and do this. Wrong. My priorities were wrong. I wasn't caring for her. I wasn't caring for myself. And the consequence was nobody felt cared for, including the people that I was doing the work for, because I wasn't concentrated on them either. Nobody was being served. Nobody was being served. And so this time I made that promise to my mom that I would be there for her. And yes, I went off these little side roads because, that's me, and I got to go off on these side roads. But as I spend more and more time thinking about my conviction around being proactive, I realized that it was holding me back from actually being able to be present in the moment and allow that flow to happen. And relax. Like really, just relax. Take those deep breaths. Allow them to be part of an embodiment the whole way through. So I want to go back to Ernest Holmes here, because he says a few other things around this. He says, love is the foundation of kindness and caring. So if you're not loving, the kindness and caring isn't actually going to show up. I say I want to be kind, I say I want to be caring, but if there's no love behind it, if I'm not being energized by that, people can tell, right? They can tell if you're not really connected. They can tell if you're just doing it by rote. It says, we will be kind and compassionate to the degree that we embody God quality love. God quality love. And so here's the other part of the story, and I'm going to call this Pass the Squid. How many of you read the newsletter this week? A couple of you? Okay, so just a couple of you. Okay, so this is the funny side. So there's two ways of loving, right? So there's that deep, profound love that I was trying to connect with my mom, trying to reach that, operating from that place, even though I wandered off a few times. And then there's that other thing that we do where, we say we love a particular type of food, or we hate a particular type of food, whatever that happens to be. I hate math. I love math. These are sort of more opinion things, but we get very caught up in them. We can actually get quite holding on to these things that we love and we hate. And so what I wrote about in my newsletter was one of those things where, and this is how our thoughts actually work, and now I can tell you, because I've tested this over a long period of time. So somewhere along the line, I decided recently in my adult life that I hate squid. And I think maybe it was just one too many rubbery calamari dishes. I think that was it, and all of a sudden one day that texture I really don't want to have that rolling around in my mouth anymore. And I started to think about the creature itself, and I just went, I don't think I can do this anymore. So my daughter was about 15 years old, and for some reason then I remembered, oh yeah, there was this book when I was a little kid in grade 2, and it was like the undersea world, right? It was like a Jacques Cousteau kind of thing. And there was the picture of the giant squid, and I was terrified of the giant squid. And then I remembered CBC stories about squid and how they can actually fly, and they've done studies. It just got weirder and weirder. So I got kind of obsessed with squid. And we even created, because my daughter was 15 and sometimes you need to shake them out of their 15-ness. And so we created a squid dance. I'm serious, here's the squid dance. We created that, she was having a bad day, we do the squid dance. And so it just became a whole thing. And so we talk about squid, and whenever things got really weird, we would just talk about squid. So now everybody knows I don't like squid. 2 weeks ago, I go to a farmer's market and out on the Sunshine Coast, and there in the farmer's market is a dish. And it's quite beautiful, quite lovely, aesthetically pleasing, nice colors, all of that. And I look at it and I realize, oh my God, that's squid. And honestly, I almost threw up. I had done such an amazing job of implanting an idea in my mind that my body was now ready to puke. And I'm not kidding. I mean, it was like, Like, seriously, it was on the other side of a glass screen. The other side of a glass screen. I couldn't smell it. All I could do was see it. It wasn't sitting on a plate in front of me. I was completely protected from that squid. All I had to do was look at it, and now I was feeling sick. Think about all of those things that you say that you hate, that you have convinced yourself that you hate. You might want to re-examine what that's all about. You might want to have a look at it. Why do you love it? How much do you love it? Is it still serving you? I loved ice cream until one day I realized, my stomach gets sick every single time I eat ice cream. Maybe it's not actually good for me. I might still love it, but maybe I shouldn't be eating it. Kind of the opposite of the squid thing. So I loved ice cream, but my body was fighting it, and I hated squid. You see what I'm saying? So these are actual things that are happening in our mind, but they're happening in our body. They're making choices, making actual choices in our consciousness, and we get to experience them and embody them. We don't know what we are embodying at any given time, what ideas we have decided to embody that are actually running the show. But when we look at what we love and what we hate, we start to get clues, and we can change it. So I'm going to show you this picture because I've decided that I'm going to change my idea about squid. So I'd written that newsletter, right? On what day was it? Monday. I wrote the newsletter on Monday. I think it went out on Wednesday. And I went to the airport. No, yes, that's right. And here is me in the airport. So this was last Sunday after service. It's a really weird picture because I'm really not good at selfies. But lo and behold, do I not end up in an airport where there are stuffies of squid. Like tons and tons of stuffies of squid. You can pass it around. You can see, those are definitely squid. There were once stuffies that were this big of squid. So I got a picture of myself with the stuffies of the squid, and I am going to transform this thinking that I had so that I can re-embrace squid. Now, I don't know what the role of squid is going to be in my life. Maybe I will continue to choose not to eat squid, but I promise you that I am going to embrace squid as a demonstration that we can change our thinking and change our experience. So be aware of caring for yourself. Be aware of caring for who you are. Be aware of your role in self-care equal to the care that you give others. If you give too many people, other people care and not yourself, it's not a good balance. We need to be in balance. We need to be in harmony all the time. So that's what I wanted to share with you. I'm going to leave you with one more quote, which I think I might need the squid back for that. You can look at the squid again. I just want to make sure you get another quote. Anybody wants to look at the squid? It's up here waiting for you. So I've got one more, and that is, hang on one second. No, I think that's it. I gave them all to you guys. So the last thing, actually this is the last thing. This is squid-like. So when life is looking squid-like, because sometimes life looks squid-like, Holmes says we are to turn away from the condition. So what did I do with squid, right? I embodied my hatred of squid. I really got into my hatred of squid. I took it all in kind of an amusing way, but it still had an effect, right? So I took it all in. What he says is if you don't want something in life, you turn away from that condition. You don't actually energize it. You don't actually engage with it. You don't fight it. It's that non-resistance, right? You just turn away from it and you focus on what it is that you do want. If I had just done that, I probably would have been fine about the squid, right? I would have just gone, squid, no big deal, not my thing, fine. I wouldn't be feeling sick. Right? So turning away from the condition is a huge way that we get an opportunity to bring ourselves back to neutral and back to our own empowerment, so we're not being run by all these other subconscious ideas about squid and whatever. So think about that. Squid-like thoughts lead to opportunities for change. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much.